Right, folks, welcome back to the Friel Goalkeeper Podcast. We're joined today. I'm very grateful to be joined by Shane O'Gara, current Finn Harps goalkeeper. I'll hand over to Shane in a moment. As I said, very grateful and big thanks to Shane for agreeing to come on. Shane, why don't you give yourself a brief introduction to who you are and a bit of background in your career so far.
Thanks very much for having me, Sean. It's a pleasure to join you. Suppose a bit of background on me is I'm currently playing with Finn Harps, having most recently been at Letterkenny Rovers and Ballymallard. I was prior to that I was playing with Derryview in the Northern Irish Championship, the 2023-2024 season. After being away from senior football for quite a while, I'd actually been away from football for quite a while too. I hadn't played any football from 2017 to 2022 between injuries and weight gain for a want of a better word for it. But before that, then I played a few years with St Catherine's. I'd been previously at Letterkenny Rovers when they were in the Ulster Senior League, and Buncrana Hearts in the Ulster Senior League as well. Starting out at St Catherine or Carricktown in St Catherine's then when I was younger, before firstly joining Finn Harps, playing as a youth there for a few years and had a season in the first team squad. So yeah, coloured background.
I think one of the reasons I'd asked you to jump on here, Shane, was kind of you touched on it there a little bit. Would be right in saying you're 34 now?
34 now, yeah.
34.
Getting up there in years.
Still young, as they say. Goalkeepers got a lot more miles on the clock than the outfielders. So you still got a few years ahead of you, fingers crossed. But you spoke there, you basically had an extended break from football. You were out of football altogether, not just senior football, but you've kind of had this resurgence, which I found really interesting. I thought it'd be really good to chat about that. So you touched on it there. You dealt with a few injuries, a few setbacks. Can you go into that and give the listeners an insight into what sort of things contributed to that and what sort of led to this, I suppose, essentially a comeback into senior football?
Yeah, well, you may say a comeback, surely. It's a sort of second chance is what I'm calling it. Sort of 2017 would have been the last year I would have played football. I joined the Guards in 2014, and sort of that took up a lot of my time. I was based in Cavan Town for the first 4 years. I'm 10 years in it this year, so sort of took a step away from football between both Gaelic and football. So basically then around 2017 I stopped playing football as a whole basically, and sort of work sort of took precedence. But then around 2019 I tried to get myself back in shape, and I got myself into relatively good shape over the winter months and was going to go back and play Gaelic later that year, and I got an injury around Christmas time. I tore the medial meniscus, and between the jigs and the reels of it, COVID then hit, and there was surgery was poorly done, and the recovery from it then took about 2 years, and I had absolutely ballooned weight.
Okay.
So I went up as far as 22 and a half stone. So in January 21, or even was it January 21? January 21 or 22, I was 22 and a half stone.
Jeez. Okay.
I'm very lucky that my girlfriend has a master's in sports nutrition. So I started working with her. I had COVID, and I got it fairly bad. around Christmas time 21. I got it fairly bad. I was bedbound for almost 30 days, and sort of I went to Letterkenny with her one of the days after I'd got out of isolation, and just no energy. It was absolutely, couldn't even walk up the town to the car. We
Mhm.
went for a coffee in the courtyard, and the car was 100 yards up the street from the courtyard. I couldn't even walk up the street. So got into the car and came home, and that was sort of the moment the penny dropped when I had to do something.
Mhm.
So ever so slowly, myself and herself worked together, and we sort of devised a plan. And by November of 22, I had 11 and a half stone off, or 9.5 stone off. Sorry,
Yeah.
I was down to 13 and a half stone from 22 and a half.
Jeez.
So I had shed the whole lot, and I went back to the GA in July of that year.
Mhm.
I'd only started running in June, and I went back and played a bit of GA, and was on the bench for the senior team in the county final that year. But the day after the county final, I'd actually signed with KG Rovers a couple of weeks before it. And the day after the county final, I went to a KG Rovers game.
Mhm.
And the young lad that was in goals for KG Rovers that day, we were playing Castle Fun. He actually broke his leg
Right.
10 minutes into the second half. And then I played the rest of the game. And that's basically where that resurgence began.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Hey, and why don't we just make that sort of go back to where you were saying there with the weight? So you got up to 22.5 stone, and then in a relatively a short space of time you lost a significant amount of weight. I suppose when you were up at your highest weight, probably playing football was the last thing in your mind, especially post COVID, like you know.
I'll be,
Um.
I'll be, I'll be totally honest with you. I genuinely thought my football career was finished. That I would
Mhm.
never kick a ball competitively again.
Yeah.
And just the fire is in the belly again once you started losing the weight, and once you started getting into good shape. You were thinking, geez, maybe I could get back playing a bit competitively. And then when you reach certain goals, and
Think we've lost you in there. Not sure what's
pushes you on,
happened. We might
the
have to
edges you on, and you just want to
get him
keep
back
going and keep
on.
going and keep going.
Let's
And
see.
in fairness, my girlfriend, in fairness to her, she's been a great support through it, and only for her, I probably wouldn't have lost the weight.
Right. So we lost you in there for a moment, but we're all good now. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Shane, you were saying there, we were just touching on your weight loss. You were 22.5 stone, and you shed down then to about 13 or so stone, and you thought your footballing days were over, but the fire started to rise in the belly, as you were saying. Do you want to continue on from where you left off there?
Sorry, it just broke up there, Sean.
Oh yeah, so no, I was just saying about how um the weight loss journey that you went on, and you thought your footballing days were over, but the fire did start to rise in the belly. Do you want to just talk us through and continue where you left off from, and basically how you went in that weight loss journey?
Yeah, so it would have been the end of January. It would have been the end of January 2022. I said, I said to Alicia, my girlfriend, the time has come. I have to do something about it. More so at the time for my health, because I was like, if I keep going the way I'm going, I'm gonna, I'm gonna, I'm not gonna be around very long, because I had
Mhm.
gotten to that point where I was just massive. So we worked together bit by bit, and every couple of weeks we reduced the calories, calorie intake until and just I started then doing a bit of gym work, doing the rehab with the knee injury, and sort of lost the first 4 or 5 stone by just eating right and just gym work. And then around June time, then I got back onto the pitch, started doing a bit of jogging, went back to the
No, you're grand.
GAA.
I don't know what
It was
happened
a
there.
hard slog now to get back doing the GAA training and a bit of running and different things,
Mhm.
but it was well worth it to get the weight shed off. The hardest part was starting. Once I got started, as I was saying, like the support that Alicia gave me the whole way through, I probably wouldn't have lost the weight if she wasn't around or wasn't in my life at that stage. So it's sort of a credit and a testament to her too. She'll say it's a credit and testament to me, but I'll say that's definitely the work that she did the sort of technical work, and then I just had to follow through the plan.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure there was lots of setbacks along the way, and I think it shows real resilience on your part to be able to do that, and get back to it. And so you touched on too, you had a pretty bad knee injury, and then you said there was a bit of a botched surgery. What was the actual injury, and what happened there?
Yeah, so I tore the medial meniscus. I was actually doing a run. I was doing a run after Christmas, and I was doing a 5k run. And I was sort of high tempo, and the last 3 strides, it was sort of like a bang bang pop in the back of my knee,
Mhm.
and I was like, I thought it was low enough down to be my hamstring, and I thought for a couple of weeks that it was just a hamstring strain. But then anytime I tried to do exercise on it, it just swole up and got really, really sore. So eventually went to the doctor with it, was sent for a scan, and unfortunately I had a tear in the medial meniscus. So that would have happened around Christmas time. Then it would have been around April, May time, because COVID had hit in then in February, March time of the following year. So went seen a specialist, and he was like he was going to do an arthroscopic procedure on it, go in and sort of clean it out. So got it done. Initially felt very good after getting it done. So when I started the rehab, then every time I would do the rehab, the knee would just swell up like before after it hurt it. And I went back 3 times saying that something just wasn't right with it, and basically all I was told was that we've done the procedure and you're just going to have to stick with it. I got a steroid injection into it then to see would that help, and felt good for a week. I was told to have it in for a week before I'd start doing my rehab. Was in for the week. First day I did the rehab, it was the first day I was able to complete the rehab, and then the following day I couldn't walk. The knee had just swollen up, so went for a second opinion on it, and turned out that there was a second massive tear that wasn't
Identified.
identified the first time or repaired the first time. So had to go get the procedure done again, and in the intervening time then I had ballooned to the weight that I was, and it was a long road back from there then.
Yeah, yeah. No, and is there any? Do you deal with any issues now in regards to that, or do you feel 100% at yourself, or just the?
Thankfully now, since I got back in 2022, I've had zero pain in it. I do my gym work. I keep on top of it and keep the strength in the quad and the hammers and the calves, just to sort of so that I'm not overcompensating with the knee. But have had no pain, thankfully. Touch wood, it stays that way.
Yeah, no, touch wood, like as you say, and so you basically then you'd started to dip your toe, into playing the Gaelic, and then you were playing a little bit with Keju Rovers. What what sort of then, that game down in Castlefin, you were sort of baptism of fire in a way, like thrown into the deep end. Um, it's never easy for goalkeepers. You don't get that gradual ease back in, like you're sort of thrown into it. After that game, then was the fire in the belly. Did you get the itch, and you're just like, right, I want to invest full into this, or was there still, you're just trying to get back and feel the passion, or what did that sort of post first game back in the soccer look like?
Yeah, and in fairness to the lads at KG, they made me very welcome. The first thing I had to face when I went on against Castlefin was a free kick from the edge of the box, and it was
Yeah.
like they were just like, "Oh, stick it in on top of him. He's cold," and you're like, "Ah, fair enough. That's the nature of it." But the following week, then we played Bunagee and we won 2-0, and sort of it was probably from the Bunagee game. Then I was like, I feel good. I'm back playing. Want to sort of do the best that I can for the team and see where it goes from there. And
Hmm.
fairness through that season, I felt like I had a good enough season. We were competing for the league up until probably the end of January. We got a couple of bad results in January. Fanad, who won the league, beat us up in Fanad. And then we played Capri, and Capri beat us in Capri, and that kind of ruled us out of the league. But as the season went on, then it was just sort of focusing to get back to levels where you know you could be at. And sort of at the end of the season, then I was like, I was just having a chat with a few people, and I was just saying, I'd love to dip my toe back into senior football. I'd love to get another crack at it. Just to say that I've given it a crack, and just to see can I compete at that level. I felt myself I could compete at that level, but it was just sort of getting there and proving to myself and sort of everyone around me that I could do it as well.
Yeah. So I think you just cut out there too, Shane. But basically, you you felt just the urge, I suppose, to go back into senior football. What was your experiences prior with senior football? I know you'd spent time with Finn Harps and so on, and then work commitments probably held you back from fully making that commitment then. But what had been your previous experiences with senior football?
So my previous experience would have been with Finn Harps. I would have joined Finn Harps in 2007 as a youth. We would have played in the Donegal Youth League, and I would have joined then I would have played with the A Championship side in 08 and 09. 08 09 up until the league finished in, I think it was 2010 or 11 it finished. And then in 2010 I was actually in the first team squad with Finn Harps. We were in the first division back then too. So that would have been my first real glimpse of senior football that season. Sort of, in fairness, if I knew then what I know now, I'd have probably stuck it out a wee bit longer. I felt that I wasn't getting a chance, and just wanted to get back playing football. So I came back and played Donegal League. But in hindsight and in reality, the reason I didn't get a chance is because I just wasn't ready at that time. I would have been very raw and just wouldn't have been at the level required at that time. But
Yeah.
as I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Well, that's it. Like, and I think, even from my own experience, playing football at a young age, like you're very, very impatient. That's what I've realized. And you kind of want it the there and now. And you said basically now you're a more experienced footballer. What have you kind of learned, or what sort of how have you started to appreciate the game more, having that extended break and now sort of being a more experienced man and player?
Yeah, when I was younger, I thought that I was definitely better than what I was, and
Okay.
definitely. But it's now that I realise it. Now I've realised that you get out of it what you put into it. That you
Hmm.
have to work hard. That you have to turn up every day, and you have to be at it every day. Like
Yeah.
like you can have an off day in terms of your quality mightn't be there, but you can't have a day off in terms of basically not putting in the work ethic and not putting in the application to what you're doing. Like when you're there, you have to be at it, and that's what I've learned now. Because like
Hmm.
when I was younger, I would have been like, don't need to do the gym work today. You don't need to do that today. I'm playing GA. I'm playing soccer. I was doing athletics at the time, and I was like thinking that each was compensating for the other, but each was
Hmm.
taken away from the other. Sort of what I've learned over the years is you can't serve two masters. You can't
Hmm.
you can't play to an exceptional level in both. You can play to a good level in both, but if you want to excel at either GA or football, you have to sort of pick one and sort of focus on it. That's sort
Yeah.
of that was sort of the big thing that I sort of took from it over the years, because you're not if you're doing the two of them, you're not giving your body a chance to recover. You're not giving the work that you're doing in one the time to give you the benefit, and then it sort of makes it very hard then to excel or progress if you're not sort of focused on one. So that would have been what I've learned over the years.
Yeah, I like that that you can't serve two masters. I think that's valuable advice. Just on a side note, what was you were saying you're doing athletics? What was your athletic background?
So when I was in school, I would have done I would have been a shot put thrower and a discus thrower. So
Okay.
so
So you do you,
two power two power disciplines, and yeah, it was hard to sort of it was hard to juggle everything.
uh and so you like listen, I've only seen bits and pieces and clips of highlights and stuff. So would you be very explosive, I'm assuming, and probably have quite a good pedigree with strength. Do you think that sort of athletic background served you in the goalkeeping?
Um, some of the training probably did, because
Mhm.
it was power based training. That that type of training was probably the most beneficial outside of say outside of the pitch work.
Mhm.
I probably didn't appreciate the training as much as I should have. But
Yeah.
now that there's so many, when you're in teams, there's S&C coaches, and now you're sort of seeing the training that they're doing. You're like, geez, I was doing some of that when I was younger with
Mm.
athletics. When you were younger, the sort of S&C stuff wasn't actually as prevalent as it is
Yeah.
today. But it was sort of you sort of think back and you think, geez, if I focused on that more at the time, what could have been?
Mm. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I know from my own personal background, when coming up through the teen years, like you were kind of doing what the outfielders were doing. You'd maybe, like I mind doing sessions where we had to do 10 laps of the pitch or something like that, or, which really didn't serve me in the goalkeeping perspective. But once I started to add and get to the gym, you're 18, 19, you get more interested in that and lifting weights and becoming more explosive. I know it took my game to a whole new level at that stage. So I thought it'd be interesting just to touch on that, to see maybe did anything translate over. Um, Now, obviously, a big moral dilemma, I suppose, and you probably faced it more than I did myself. But the GAA versus the soccer. I'm not sure what your background is within the GAA, but how was that decision there? You spoke about not being able to serve two masters. Was it straight cut football, straightforward, or was there some weighing up the options there?
Yeah, so when I was at when I was at Harps in 08, 07, 08, I would have probably picked the Gaelic a wee bit more. In
Right.
07, 08, I would have played County Minor in 08 for Donegal, and then from sort of 2008 on, then I sort of focused more with Finn Harps. Now I played both, and I remember in 09, 09-10, I played the first league game of the Gaelic season, and then was like the following week then Finn Harps and the Gaelic were on the same day.
Mhm.
So I picked Finn Harps that stage, and sort of that was me then. For maybe I was playing football then for 5 years. Sort of stuck with it, and then when I sort of came back to play sort of junior football with St Catherine's, I sort of dipped my toe back into the Gaelic then.
Mhm.
And then in recent years, I would have been playing both Gaelic and soccer when I was at KJU, and then sort of when I went up to Derview, I would have played both too, for a period of time as well. They sort of overlapped. The Gaelic weren't overly pleased that time that I went back and played soccer, but it was just a burning desire that I had, and I told them that it was an opportunity that I didn't want to let go. And
Yeah.
in fairness now, I didn't miss out. I didn't miss out in any games, but I've taken the decision now this year to step away from the Gaelic and just focus on the football then. So it wasn't an easy decision to do this year either, because the Gaelic lads are lads you grew up with, they're lads you know from day dot, but it's something I felt that I needed to do this year, is just to
Yeah.
sort of focus on it. I've learned from previous instances, and I just think that, listen, playing with a League of Ireland club, you can't be dipping into both. If you want to give it, if you're serious, or if you want to give it a serious crack, you have to focus on it and give it everything you've got.
Yeah. No, it's good. Like so, like to be honest, I find this really, really fascinating. Like the idea that you've taken this extended break, you're sort of going into your thirties, and you're basically making this moving then to senior football. I think it's great. Like, so how did that opportunity? You said you were speaking to one or two people. How did the opportunity to get back in with Dergview come about?
Um, the opportunity, I tell you, I reached out to Tony Blake. I would have had Tony as a goalkeeping coach in 2013 when I was at Letterkenny Rovers, and sort of reached out to Tony and basically just laid all the cards on the table and says, listen, I've got myself back into good shape. I want to give senior football a crack. And I actually asked him, I says, if he had any contacts in the north, maybe to get in for training or in for a trial, just to sort of see how it goes, maybe in for pre-season. And I was working in Dunlow at the time, and Tony came out to Dunlow and we met for a chat, and he goes, I tell you, I'll not get another club. I tell you, I'm in with Derview. Says you can come in and do pre-season with us and see how you get on. So that's basically I jumped at the opportunity then, and basically just went for it, and went in, did the pre-season, got offered a contract then for the season, and sort of started out as number 3,
Mhm.
behind Paddy McGarvey and Adam Grugan. Paddy then had a bad injury.
Mm.
Playing against the Welders up there, had a bad knee injury, and then Adam took over from him. Adam was in for a few weeks then, and sort of results then sort of didn't go their way, and then there was a change of management, and then Ivan Sproul took over at Derview on an interim basis and gave me my first team debut against Bangor, and we won 2-1 that day. And sort of apart from maybe 4 or 5 games through the season, I played upwards of 30 games for Derview in the 2023-2024 season. Unfortunately now we ended up getting relegated in a playoff on a penalty shootout. It was probably one of the hardest nights I've had in football, but the year as a whole, while it was tough, I felt it performed well in the jersey, and I thoroughly enjoyed the season, and it just proved to me that I could compete at that level.
Mm-hmm. And was there any struggles getting up to that level? Like, I'd be interested to hear your perspective on the difference between Donegal League and that sort of Irish League First Division. Was there any struggles to get up to speed, or how did you find that jump?
I tell you, the first couple of weeks of pre-season, when you go in initially, and you know it's a step up in standard, and you're seeing boys zinging the ball around, and you're just thinking, I'm wondering, can I step up to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then just ever so slowly, in fairness, Tony was brilliant. Tony sort of said at the start, he was like, listen, there's going to be a difference, just be patient. And probably the fact that I was a wee bit older and sort of realised that things take time. I got up to the speed then of it, and sort of once I got up to the pitch of it, I felt really good and felt really comfortable. But that initial first 2-3 weeks of pre-season, you're thinking, whoa, I don't know if I can match the pace that's going here, but I got there eventually, so I was happy out. But there is a step up in standard from the Donegal League to the Northern Irish Championship. It's a semi-pro level. There's players from the Premiership, maybe in their later years, are stepping down, that have had good senior careers, and then there's young lads then hoping to have good senior careers, and they're all fighting for it. Mind you, the standard of the Donegal League this year is fantastic. There's some really good teams in it, but there is still a step up then to the Northern Irish Championship.
Yeah, and I suppose you played quite a bit with the Oscar Trainer team this year as well. I'm sure, as you say, there's the quality now within the Donegal League at the Premier Division level is supreme. Like, you have essentially senior footballers. Everything, all the quality there is brilliant between Letterkenny Rovers and Fanad and the likes of Keju and Kildrum and so on. The league's never been stronger, more competitive, which is good too. Excuse me. So Shane, you had a really good solid base. Sorry, I'm going to need to turn off the mic to have a cough. So sorry about that. You had a really good couple of months there at Derview. Unfortunately, the team did get relegated, which was, as I say, unfortunate. And then you made the move to Ballinamallard. How did that come about? And yeah, what was your experience there with Ballinamallard?
Yeah, so my contract had run out with Derview, and I was sort of still hoping to stay within senior football. I actually met the goalkeeper coach up there, Decky McIntyre, and just was chatting to him, and we had a conversation just about we were having a conversation just about football, and basically just asked him if they were looking for a keeper for the season ahead. So he offered me to come in and train. So went up, trained, um, trained trained well enough. Now took me a while to get back up to the pace because I had missed a couple of weeks of the pre-season because I hadn't been with any club from say April, and sort of went in maybe late July, so was late enough late enough in pre-season going in, so took a bit of time to get up to the pace of it. Ballinamallard, really good club, really good people around it. Like Derby, really good club as well. It was just unfortunate, sort of work commitments and different things were sort of straining around that time, around September time. Was busy with work and sort of it was beginning to be a struggle to get up for trainings and sort of get off for games and that. So unfortunately, I had to come back to the Gaul League at that time just to get a bit of football or to stay involved in football. Thankfully, I've sort of cleared the decks with work and sort of got a wee bit more control and sort of we managed it a wee bit more, and sort of that's allowed me now to get back into senior football.
Yeah, and so I think you said you were with the Guards there, down the country. Are you still currently within that, or?
Yeah, I'm in the Guards. I'm based in Dunlow now.
Okay.
I'm based in Dunlow now since 2019. So 6 years there now. Next month. So
Yeah.
that's sort of how playing with KG Rovers came about.
Yeah.
Pat Ward came in to get a form signed one day, and sort of he was tapping me up straight away trying to get me
Yeah.
in football. So
Well, that's it. Yeah, when you go into them areas, like you kind of, especially goalkeepers, like they just get tapped up straight away. Like so. But no, that's interesting. Like, and so things didn't quite work out at Ballinamallard. And then I'm right in saying the next move was to Letterkenny Rovers.
yeah, back to
Yeah.
Letterkenny Rovers for the second stint at it.
Yeah, so it was Tony Blake that sort of brought you in there, was it?
Yeah, sort of having known Tony from previously being at Letterkenny and sort of previously then with Airdrie, we'd been chatting and I said that sort of work was difficult, and he just says, why don't you come on in with us, and sort of whenever you can train and we'll see how it goes. And came in and sort of really enjoyed it there. Having been at Letterkenny previously, listen, they're a really good club.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people around the club too, so it was a sort of seamless transition back into it.
And how's this season went for you? Because again, looking from the outside in, you know, would I be correct in saying this? Like, I know Mark Anthony McGinley's there too. It seems like, you know, I haven't really seen maybe a successive run of games. Was there work commitments prohibiting that? Or how does this season look like? Because, again, from the outside looking in, it probably seems a bit unique, to say the least.
Yeah, so this season, sort of when I joined, Mark was still at the Gaelic, and sort of I came in and I started the first league game against Kildrum. We had a draw, and then whatever happened that day, I picked up a sort of a knock on me back, and I was struggling for the next couple of weeks with it. Sort of in the meantime, then Mark came back from the Gaelic, and sort of he was playing. Then Mark was away for a couple of weeks. I played a couple of games then. Played well. Then before Christmas, then I got a run of games. I played 4 or 5 games before Christmas. We'd won them all, and then I sort of was selected for the Oscar trainer squad. Played in that game again before Christmas. 2-2 draw, and then after Christmas, then between just selection and that, sort of Letterkenny decided to go with Mark, and the Oscar trainer went with me. So Mark started the league and cup games after Christmas, and I was playing then with the Oscar trainer then after Christmas, and then just between one thing and another, the opportunity came to come to Harps, and I grabbed it with both hands.
Yeah, and so why don't we go into that? How did that opportunity come about?
The opportunity came about basically probably through my perseverance and a timely pre-season friendly. I was sort of looking to get back into senior football, and I hadn't kept it to myself that I was looking to get back into senior football, and sort of in the middle of January then, on a Tuesday night, Letterkenny Rovers ended up playing Finn Harps in a friendly at Lakeview Astro, and I played in that, and had a good game. We won 1-0, and sort of got speaking to the goalkeeper coach at the Harps, saying that I'd be interested in coming in if the opportunity was there, and that's how it sort of came about.
Okay, yeah, and how have you found that so far? What's that experience been like?
Thoroughly enjoying it so far. Now, not been in the squad these last couple of weeks, which is disappointing, but it's up to me to get to the standard and put the boys that are ahead of me out of it. As you know, Oisín's there, Oisín Cooney, fantastic young lad, great attitude, and his attitude and commitment and training is unreal. So he's going to be a tough one to move. And then we've David Isaiah, and on loan from Bromley there. He had his first competitive start there at the weekend. He's a big man, good keeper as well, young as well, so has a lot to learn in the game as well. But there's potential there as well. But so I have two good lads to try and move out of the way.
Yeah, and what's that like, that dynamic? Because again, without being disrespectful, you're more senior to them essentially, and they're quite young. Like Oisín's still a teenager. I'm not sure how old David is, but I would say he's very much in his early 20s. What's the dynamics been like there in training, and where you sort of giving them bits and pieces of advice, trying to use your experience, or how's that looking for you?
Yeah, no. In fairness now, if I see something and I think that it can benefit one of the lads, I'll pass it on. I'm not one of these people that I'll see something and say nothing. At the end of the day, we're there to for the betterment of the club. So if I see something that can help the individual, that'll help the club, I'll say it. And if I know how to correct, say, a mistake or this or that, I'll work with them to correct it. I'm not one of these boys that'll be like saying, "Oh, he's made a mistake. This is my opportunity now to nail it home." At the end of the day, listen, goalkeeping is it's a specialised position. Nobody outside of a goalkeeper understands what it's like to be in that sort of pressure cooker.
Oh yeah.
It's playing on the edge of failure the whole time. Like, you're literally just one move away from an absolute disaster. Like, so we have to be a support network for each other, in my opinion. And if somebody gets the jersey, say it's Ocean or David gets the jersey, the minute that decision is made, you're there to support and do everything that you can in the game or in the warm up, to help them to be as best prepared as they can be for the game. And then from training, say Monday to Thursday or Friday, whenever the team's named, you can go hell for leather at it again. But if you can see something that'll help them, I don't see the point in not trying to share experiences and not try and help them. Because at the end of the day, listen, they're at the start of their careers. I've seen sort of both sides of it. I've seen keepers that just turn up, do their own thing, do their own training. If they see a mistake, they won't do anything about it. They won't even reach out and even ask if you're okay after a mistake. But I would be the other way. If I see a mistake, I'll talk to it, we'll assess it, we'll try and correct it, and we'll try and learn from it, and then sort of forget about it and move on as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and have you, talking about that pressure, as you say, it's a specialised position. It's very unique. Have you found as you've got older that it's became easier to deal with that pressure, or do you think it's just been consistent the whole way through your career?
When I was younger, when I'd make a mistake, it would eat you up. It would eat you up and just tear you down, and you'd be thinking about it, and you'd realise then that you were spending more time thinking about the mistake than you were actually concentrating on the next action.
Yeah.
And then that leads to more mistakes. Whereas now, if I make a mistake, I'm like, can't do anything about it. Worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. So I just literally park it and focus on the next action.
Yeah.
And say after the game, then if you have the VO or if you have anything, you can go through it and see what you've done on a technical aspect, to see if there's something you can sort of learn from there. But it's very important not to get hung up on the mistake there and then, because one mistake leads to two mistakes, leads to three mistakes if you're sort of focusing on that one mistake. Whereas I find that as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at just parking the mistake and worrying about it after the fact rather than there and then.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Like, I think for anyone listening, it's valuable, to just stay present within the game once you do. And I don't know if you listen to Casper Schmeichel. He speaks very well about this. He did a podcast, and I think you just have to embrace that pressure, because there's no getting away from it when it's said and done, and that's what makes you goalkeeping unique and a special position. So no, I think that's valuable.
The one thing I would have learned is that if you think and worry about a mistake or making a mistake, the chance of you making that mistake is probably 100% higher than if you just go out and embrace the game. And the other thing I've learned too is don't go chasing the game. It's the position of goalkeeping. It's a reactive position. You can't go chasing the game. You have to let the game come to you. And so many goalkeepers and young goalkeepers after mistakes go chasing the game.
Yeah.
They think they have to make up for the mistake that they've made, which is not the right way to go about it. But as I says, that's a hindsight thing.
Yeah.
I've learned as the years have gone on.
Oh yeah, you have to learn the hard way, unfortunately, that you can't be proactive in goalkeeping, and you don't necessarily want to be either, because the best games are the quiet games, where the team turns over a result, and you've had a quiet day at the office. If you could get that every week, you'd be happy as Larry.
Yeah, if you could get a day where you went out and the most that you've done is just communicate and talk to your defenders and organise your back four and midfield and had very little to do out of it, that's the best game for a goalkeeper because
Yeah.
they've done their organisational duties at the back. When I was younger, it was all about big saves. It was all about being involved and sort of trying to sort of make save after save after save. But as I've found now, goalkeeping's about consistency. It's about being seven, 8 out of 10 every week. Just doing the basics well, doing things simple, doing things right, and sort of being a consistent sort of pillar behind your back four, so that they know what you're gonna do and they trust what you're gonna do. Um, sort of sort of take the erraticness, sort of young exuberance out of it. When you were younger, you'd have been more erratic. You'd have been coming for things. You'd have been
Mm.
5 minutes later, something that you should have came for, you weren't coming for. So it's just about consistency and sort of, but that comes then with experience, in my opinion. The young keepers that get the consistency are the ones who make it.
Mhm.
When they
Oh yeah.
realise at a young age that it's consistency that's needed, and they have that sort of that X factor, that wow factor, they're the ones who end up making it.
Yeah.
It's us that find out in later years that sort of only go as far as we're currently going.
Yeah. No, I think that's all valuable advice, like for listeners there too, and any young goalkeepers who are wishing they play at the highest level possible. Like consistency's key, and you know, any goalkeeper can have a 9 out of 10 game, 1 week, but just getting steady 7, 8 out of 10s every week is what it's all about. Why don't now? I know it's been a very short time since you've signed with Harps and been working with the lads. How have you found? Have you found the levels have stepped up again working with like Sasha Cooney, who's been on trials with Premier League clubs, Ireland underage youth international, David Isaiah, who's playing on loan from Bromley, who are a League Two professional club. Have you found your two young working with two young lads? Have your levels started to come up as your game progressed?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I've found that sort of being in that environment, um, the levels definitely have gone up. And listen, you have to work harder to get there too. And it's not about getting to a level; it's about keep getting to the levels and progressing. If you want to compete with these lads, like Oshin, as you've said, he's been on trial with Premier League clubs. He's an underage international. He has a big future ahead of him. David too. He's at a professional club. He's been he's been he's been in since sort of midway through pre-season. The two lads are are at a good level and at a good standard, and it's sort of up to me now to get to their level. Even in around the group, you can find the standard is much higher. Like the level of say in finishing drills and that, there could be the lads could be flicking taking strikes from the edge of the box, and you're like, there's not a hope you're getting near
Yeah.
something. You nearly need to have no feelings whatsoever, because there's some days you could come out of out of a shooting session and you haven't got near one of them, and you're just thinking to yourself, am I poor or are they that good? And
Yeah.
you just have to tip your hat to some of the shots you face.
Yeah. What's it like? It. Um. Yeah. No, it's fair. It's very fair. What What's one aim or goal that seems non-negotiable for you for the season ahead?
The one non-negotiable is sort of work hard every day and basically do everything that I can control to be in a position to get into the first team this season.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's so many things that I can control. Like at the end of the day, selection is out of my control, and how the team is picked and etc. But what I can control is doing all my performing at all my sessions, sort of turning up, putting in the effort, doing my gym work, doing me prehab, doing me rehab, doing all those things in terms of nutrition. Then having that on point, that's the non-negotiables for me. If I focus on all the things that I can control, it gives my chances of getting into the team that bit of a boost.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. Like, and again, it's about controlling what you can control and being able to set the things that you can't control aside and just focus on staying present and those controllables, control all those variables. Because the outcomes, unfortunately, we don't have too much control on them. Like, again, I think that's really good.
Yeah, unfortunately, sort of, it would be nice now if we had a wee bit more control in it, but
Yeah.
but listen, we'll batter on. We'll put our best foot forward, and we'll see where it takes us.
No, that's good. Listen, Shane, I'm going to ask you one more question, and again, really, really grateful that you took the time out on a Sunday to do this. But what is maybe some advice or piece of advice you would give to someone who's maybe a goalkeeper now, who's in their late 20s, had a couple of setbacks, and thinking, you know what, it's just, nah, I've kind of peaked. There's no chance I'm going to play senior football ever or again. You've someone who's made that journey, has done that. What's something you would give maybe an earlier version of yourself, looking back, or someone who wishes to make that journey?
Oh, that's a good question. Thinking back, 28, 29-year-old me would have probably thought that it wasn't possible. What I will say is, if you want to do it, and it's something that you feel you can do, give it everything you've got. If you need to rely on people around you, if you need to talk to people around you, find yourself good supports. Your support network and the people around you. If you're surrounded by good people, you can achieve anything you want.
I think maybe we've lost Shane there. Sorry, Shane, you just cut out there. You were it just cut out when you were saying about having people around you, relying on people around you.
Yeah, sort of your support network. And if you surround yourself with good people that will help and support you through thick and thin, you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. I would never have thought 6 years ago that I'd have been back playing football, let alone signing for Finn Harps in the League of Ireland. I just wouldn't have believed it. But the people around me, family, my girlfriend, they all said, if you want to do it, give it everything you've got. Do what you can do to get yourself that far. And here I am today now. I haven't played for them yet, but I'm in with a fighting chance of getting a game because I'm there. So
Yeah.
what I would say is, if there is something that if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and there's something you feel you want to do everything you can. Let it be gym work, let it be nutrition, let it be anything like that in football. If it's even education, have at it. Go for it. The only thing that will stop you from doing it is you. That's basically the only limitation on it is yourself. You can go out and do anything if you put your mind to it.
No, listen. I think that's a really, really good note to finish on, Shane. And listen, I think you're an inspiration for any young local goalkeepers out there who are trying to make that journey into the senior football and senior games. So, as I said, thank you so much for taking the time out to do that. Very, very grateful. And yeah, thanks so much for doing it.
No problem at all, Sean. Thanks very much for having me. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Excellent. So, listen, folks, that's another episode of the Friel Goalkeeper Podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for future episodes.